Alright, hi, I'm Will Smith, and I'm streaming from the Greater Victoria Public Library right in the lobby. Unfortunately, they're running a large sander at our usual venue, so I can't do anything there today, which is probably just as well because I don't have any guests today anyway. So what I thought I'd do today is just explain the basics of the streaming setup, and I'm going to talk for a while out here just to see how this works, to see how it sounds, how it looks. The lighting is a little bit difficult, and but it doesn't seem to be too noisy. There may be some echoes. So anyway, so the whole point of doing this live stream is to defuse fear about the future, and there are a number of ways that we can do that. So right now, just bear with me here. So the main thing about this whole possibility of streaming with multicam is with a new piece of software. It's actually not new, but it's been released to the open source community. It's called OBS, Open Broadcaster Studio. And I'm using it right now, and by using this I can use relatively inexpensive equipment. Right now I'm just doing it from a laptop, and there's a dog here who's looking around right now. Sorry. There are more distractions here in the lobby. At any rate, this software can be downloaded from, I think the website is called obsproject.com, and you can download it. There are flavors available for Linux, Windows, or Mac. I'm using the Linux version, and we're running on Ubuntu version 17.04. It's the latest version, I believe. That's what we're using. That's what we're normally using anyway. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to run our intro, just because we do that. Which is also run with OBS. Now I'm going to show you what the desktop looks like on OBS, and you'll see that there are two screens. There's the screen that I'm talking on, and there's the screen, the next screen. Now in this particular case, and then when I'm ready, this little thing that says transition, and it switches from whatever is in this area over to what's in this area. And what is in this area here is accessed by looking at this list. If you see this little list here, so you can have a list, and these are your scenes. They call those scenes, and these scenes are your desktop. They could be, even if you had two screens, they could be two different. It could be another screen on the same computer. So it's very flexible as far as setting up something that you can use to tell your story. Is one of the most useful things for us right now. Things we need to do is tell our story. How we can change the way we see the world and change the world is by changing our conception of what storytelling is. Very important. Storytelling is very important, and that's one of the main reasons I'm willing to sit here and figure all these things out and talk to you about it, tell you how I've done them. Back up here, as you can see, I'm just running off the little webcam. I'm using a better microphone. I'm just going to show you this microphone that I am using. It's a Zac Sounds SF666 Pro. Now these are available on Amazon.ca and other websites, but this microphone is really good because it's only about $25, And for $25 you get the microphone, you get an adapter so you can plug it into virtually and split them out. This microphone setup. Now there is one other thing that I'd like to mention about this microphone. This microphone is a condenser microphone, so it requires a slight amount of bias power. In the case of this mic, it only needs between 2 and 3 volts. If you try to run it on the phantom power that is available on most professional audio inputs, which is 46 volts, it works for about 3 seconds and then it starts to fade, so it's probably shutting down the FET follower or something. Anyway, you don't want to run it on phantom power. Now, it works fine normally from a PC or from one of these little USB adapters, because those little devices have the wiring internally to supply that 3 volts and just default to supplying that 3 volt and blocking the resultant DC with a capacitor. So if you want to use more than one microphone, though, it's somewhat problematic. So bear with me here. When we have more than one guest, we need more than one microphone. So what I've done is I've built this little box, and it's got 2 microphone inputs. They're 1/4-inch jacks just because I have this for free. I found the box in the garbage, and it's got 2 1/4-inch audio plugs for the output to go into the mixer. It's also got a little battery pack in there and a little on-off switch. It's just 2 AA cells. And then there's 2 resistors and 3 capacitors, and I'll show the wiring diagram. But it's relatively, I think you could probably build it for less than $20. I plan to build a 4-channel one as a project for in Victoria's garden, just to show you how to do it. But anyway, this lets you run as many microphones as you want into a mixer. And the mixer that I'm using, it's called an Ammon, and they say it's a 6-channel. I call it an 8-channel because it really does have 8 channels on it. It's got 4 microphones. 2 of the microphones can have phantom power, but we don't use that. And then it's got regular balanced and unbalanced outputs up here. And then it's got it's got some rudimentary tone controls, just bass and treble, and it takes either low-level inputs or line-level inputs. There's a switch on each channel that pads it. To be down 26 dB. And it's also got a high-pass filter with an 80 Hz cutoff, so you can get rid of 60 Hz hum if that's a problem. And it's also got rudimentary effects. The effects are reverb and delay. Typically I'm not going to be using those, however it is nice to have a little reverb because sometimes you need a little reverb. But the main thing about this mixer is it runs on USB, and it has both a USB input and output. So in other words, you can set up your computer so that instead of going out to the audio hardware, it goes to this USB port, comes back through the mixer, and the same thing when instead of running from your audio inputs, you can just look at this USB port as if it's an audio import. So you've got your mixed audio coming into OBS Studio, and then it goes out to the stream. And this thing is less than $100. Their list price is $149 Canadian on Amazon, I think, but you can buy it. I got mine from a place called Tom Top, and it was only $75 delivered, and it came rather quickly. I think the warehouse is in Ontario. Okay, so that covers the nicest thing about this is you don't even need power. Even to run the phantom power, if you were using professional microphones that required phantom power, you can turn on the phantom power and it's supplied from the USB voltage. It does take 2 USB ports, however. One is just for power, and the other one is for the I/O, for the digital I/O. Now, normally what we do is we're using these old Sony cameras. Now, these were donated to me by Barbara Motz. wasn't using them anymore, and so I've got two of these. These cameras, as you can see, have a really nice Carl Zeiss lens. So these cameras were about $1,000 15 years ago. The electronics inside is obviously leaves a lot to be desired, because it's only capable of recording a QVGA that's 320 by 240. So it's good for an email video or something like that, but anything is better than that resolution nowadays, because our technology has gotten to be so much better. But anyway, if you can score a couple of these cameras, you can get them online. I've looked on eBay. You can get these for about, I think you could get them for $65. You want to make sure that you get DC adapters for your cameras, so you don't have to run on the batteries, because typically you're just going to turn them on and leave them out. We don't care about the audio, but we do care about the composite video. So if you can get the powers next door, and then your video is going to come out of there. You need a cable for those. You have to find out which cable. This is a typical cable. It's got a stereo connector. The tip is the audio, the ring is the video, and then the ground is ground, the common signal. The video is a yellow connector, and we go into an adapter that takes it to a BNC, because the input cards that I'm using have BNC hookups. So these are about $1 at the thrift store. I think the adapter is more expensive. It's about $3, but you can get those at virtually any electronics store that has a lot of stuff. You may not, the camera you may have, or the cameras may have a thing that looks like a micro USB. This is another one. This particular connector fits this old Lumix camera. Just going to wait until that stops. Had quite an echo of that. Anyway, this camera has the same little door. It has the same things in the door. There's a power connector. There's a power connection, and then there's this little USB type connector. And if you plug this into that, then you'll have you can just tape the white one up so it doesn't short out against anything, and then the yellow one is the video output. So these are just consumer cams. I'm continually looking at thrift stores for this stuff now, and these cameras cost, you can buy a camera like this for $20 to $25. And these are perfectly good for live streaming, because they've got decent lenses, and they have the composite video output, which is just a regular NTSC video output. It's even less than 720p, but it's perfect for doing things to YouTube. Just checking my time. Then the next thing you may need some longer cables. So typically you can get these all day long at the thrift store. These are just video cables that people use for games. Usually these are the RGB cables but these are very good quality, high bandwidth cables. They've got RCA gold-plated connectors on both ends, and the cable itself is quite. I think they're capable of doing 1080p resolution. So running composite through it, you've got probably 10 times less bandwidth with the composite, so the signal is quite good. Now, to run the camera, you can get inexpensive tripods at thrift stores. I got this nice metal tripod at a local thrift store for, I think it was $7, and interestingly enough, this one's kind of an antique, and I looked on eBay, and there are people trying to sell them for $60, so they're pretty good though. They're not plastic, they're all metal. And then the next thing you need, if you have two cameras and you only have one person who's switching and directing, you may need one of these. This is a pan tilt adapter, and you just screw it onto the tripod, and then the camera screws on that, and then with this little remote pendulum. This is about, this has a 3-foot cable, but you can get 10, 20, 30-foot extensions, and it just lets you pan and zoom camera remotely. So you can have your director sitting quite far away from the camera, and she doesn't have to move to fix the shot. I've been using just one of these. When I'm directing, I have one camera right next to me so I can change it, and then I've got another camera on the other side pointed at the guest or at me, and that one I can control. It's better. I don't like to do the switching while I'm talking to somebody because it's too hard to think about all these different things at the same time. But I just wanted to show you anyway today what you need to do more than one person. I'll just show you one other thing. There are a couple of different kinds of cables, and if you're going to use an extension cable, the best thing you can do is you need one of these with the 1/8" plug on it. Then look for the cables that have the female ends like that. Then the extension cable can plug right into that. A lot of them just have the male ends. See, this is one that has just the 1/8", and then it has a male end, and that's fine. You just have to get a double female adapter if you want to put it on extension, or like this one. This is an inexpensive card. I got these for $15 on eBay, and has 4 video inputs. However, only one. It's a multiplexer. It's just one input really, but it muxes in between among the 4 different inputs. Anyway, this is all the adapter is. It's got an RCA on one end, and then it's got the BNC on the other end. So that's what that looks like. You'll find on eBay or any other place that that sells, where they're sellers who sell used electronics. I found it's rare to find one of those in a thrift store. I've never seen one of those, but I have found these in a thrift store. This is called a TV card, and normally it's just used for making your computer into a TV set so you can watch TV while you're working. Ha ha ha. But it also has an RCA jack that's a video input, and you should be able to find these. I think I paid $5 for this one. That's a typical price for one of these cards in a thrift store. So if you have 2 of these, I did manage to find 2 of these, and I'm going to try these out so you can know. I'm just going to keep going. When I find inexpensive stuff, I'm going to buy it and keep trying it so you can see what's possible for very little money. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is to run to run Open Broadcaster Studio, you need a better video card. This Toshiba is that I'm running on this laptop is a fairly recent laptop, and it has a 1080p video card that'll do 1080p. So it also has a HDMI video output. So it's ready to go. It doesn't need a new video card. It works without an external video card. However, the computer I'm using for our normal stream, which is a regular desktop, it's a Dell desktop. The built-in video on it won't operate. It's about a 12-year-old computer, and back then the chipsets they weren't capable of doing anything like the resolutions that are required today. So you can buy a video card. I got this one. You can see the price tag on the back still. It was $5 at a thrift store, and it needs a cover for this fan, because the fan needs a plate on top of that. If I do get this running, you see this doesn't have they're supposed to have a cover on this so the air forces out through the fins, but it doesn't. So I'm going to have to do something for that. But this one has 3 outputs. It doesn't have an HDMI output, but it does have a VGA output in it, and it is capable of running 1080p. So it's a good card. And again, it was $5. The one that I bought for our rig was $35, but it was worth it because I had to mess around with it, and the guys at Boomers, the computer store that I frequent to buy these things, were nice enough to let me try a card, and if it didn't work, bring it back, and I had to do that 3 times. So you know, that's the main thing about this, is that you're going to have to use a little creativity, and you're going to have to get some help wherever you can to make. If you can throw money at it, of course you can just go out and buy whatever you want. But if you're going to try to do it for no money, you're going to have to be a little creative. And so the next thing I wanted to let's see. The next thing I just wanted to show you that in order to get this to work right, you have to set your sound up. And in Ubuntu, it's really simple to do this. I don't even know how to do it on Windows 7 or 10. The last Windows I used was Vista, and it was so bad I just gave up. But anyway, if you look at this, is the setup screen for Ubuntu, and this shows you if you put it on the sound settings, it shows you that you can choose the USB sound card, and it also does that. You can also do that for the outputs. So you can choose whether you want your output to be the built-in sound card or a USB sound card if you have that, which is what you need if you're running either this adapter that I showed you, or you're running a mixer. Anyway, that's pretty straightforward. Let's see. I can go back to the desktop here. I just want to show you a little bit more about OBS. This is an older version of OBS on my laptop. I've got to update it to a later version. It doesn't have quite the features. But you can see here, as I was showing you, that you have the preview screen, which is what I'm talking on right now, because you're seeing this screen over here. The it's kind of hard to look at this and see what I'm doing. Anyway, you've got the scenes over in the lower left-hand corner. You've got the different scenes that you can put, and what you do is you just select which scene you want, and it goes there, and then you can switch to it by clicking on one of the buttons, transition buttons, and you can do it gradually, like you can do it, you can do a fade, where it fades nicely like that, or you can do a cut, just cuts them instantly. The sources down here, for every scene you can have multiple sources, so you can do things like you can do compositing, where you do a green screen type thing, where you say you put a green screen behind you, and then you can have more than one asset on your that you're showing at the same time. Or you can, like, I could make it look like I'm sitting in front of a fountain in New York City if I wanted to, if I had a picture of that, and it would, even though I'm here in Victoria. You can also determine your audio sources, so you can have one audio source with multiple video sources and mix it right on the screen. It's really quite flexible. The only problem that you might run into, if you have too many video sources, all that takes a lot of CPU overhead. So right now I'm running at about 33%. I'm using about 33% of the processor's resources, and I'm only running one webcam. So that's one thing to consider. If you want to run more than one camera, is you better check out to see how much of your CPU's resources it's going to take. Now, the computer that I'm running with multicam, it's running directly into a PCI bus, so there's very little overhead compared to USB. Doing this is, there are a lot of details, and you just have to pay attention, and if something doesn't work, then you have to be patient enough to figure out why it's not working and fix it. And believe me, that sometimes it took me a whole day to figure out why my microphones weren't working. I bought these brand new microphones, and one would work and two wouldn't work, even when I hooked it up to the mixer. It was just amazing. And those video cards, I don't even want to talk about that. That was a week's work. So now let's see. I was going to show some more things on here, but let me see if I can just do this in real time while we're sitting here. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to I don't have anything else to show right now, but Since I am at the Victoria Greater Public Library and I've reserved a room, this is a conference room, or actually this is the one that I did today is for 2 people. It's called a study room, and I'm just going to walk up there, and I'm going to leave the computer on while I'm walking, so we're going to actually walk through the library doing the stream, and then I'll do it up there. It should be really quiet there, and the thing about these rooms is they're free. So you have a free internet connection, and you have a free room, and it's quiet. That's about all you can ask for. So let me just gather my stuff here. I'm not even going to interrupt the stream. I'll just point towards the lobby so you have something more interesting than silly old me. Okay. So, I'm just going to unplug the mouse as I travel. Hopefully that doesn't mess anything up. Sorry about the microphone noise here.